Ready. Want to
Hello, everybody. I'm Patrick, alcoholic. Welcome to anybody new to Alcoholics Anonymous. You can find what I have here. This group started until the 1944. Alcoholics Anonymous officially started in 1939. And here we are still today. What an honor for me to be asked to speak at this birthday meeting after 81 years.
woo! Let's go.
I want to do something right quick here. Just for visual purposes here, I just want to welcome to you people. I'd like to have a show of hands for everyone who has under 30 days.
Come on. Let's go. Yeah.
Everybody under 1 year. Everybody under 5 years. Take a look around, folks.
Yeah.
About 10. 10 years.
Okay.
5 to 10 years. Anybody? 5 to 10 years. One hand.
Woo!
About between 10 and 20.
Dang. Old timers.
How about 20 to 30?
Oh, come on.
30 to 40. Back in 1955, the success rate of Alcoholics Anonymous was estimated to be at 75%. And today there was 2 of us in the room that went from 30 to 40. Kind of makes you wonder where all that went. And the new people in the room, you're the carriers of the torch. You're the people that are going to be celebrating. You are the people that are going to be raising your hand from 30 to 40, 20 years from now. And I came here to share my experience, strength, and hope. And somehow in my experience that might lend some strength and some hope to somebody that has the problem that we do. Gratitude, I am grateful. My sobriety date is January 12th, 1987. For that I am grateful.
Woo!
You know what pissed me off is when people would water down my drinks. You know why that made me mad?
Go. Another one. Ah.
Holy cow.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah. Come on. Let's go.
I didn't like my drinks watered down because they didn't work.
That's right.
That's why. And unfortunately, my experience has been is that when you water Alcoholics Anonymous down, it does the same thing as watering a drink down. It just doesn't work. So I am grateful for the sobriety and for the day that I have and for the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And what I'm to do is to bear witness to those that I would help of His love and His power, His way of life. And if I'm not actively doing that, whether it's at a podium or an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, then I'm a liar and there is no truth in me. And that's just the facts. I'm supposed to have what happened, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So if I stand up here guys, and I talk for 45 minutes about what it was like. And then you get 5 minutes of what it's like now, and nothing happened in between. I guarantee you'll walk out of here with one thing in mind. That one thing in mind is going to be that he doesn't drink any more successful than I do. And that's what you'll walk out of here with. So I'm going to try not to do that tonight. And I hope not to offend anyone. That is my intention. But if I do offend anyone, well, get a sponsor.
Keep coming back. Yeah, let's go.
Go over it with them. I'll probably get a standing ovation if I talk for 45 minutes about my drunken loves. But nobody will really walk out of here with anything other than we'll know we can't drink. And so that really isn't going to do any good. Bill mentioned in his story something about a fourth dimension. He said that he was catapulted into a fourth dimension of existence. And then later on in the book, it says on page 25 that we have found much of heaven and we have been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence. Well, for a simple man like me, that implies the idea that there are 3 dimensions before that. Maybe I should know what those are. So I've done that. First dimension for me is what I call perception years. These are years when I don't even know I'm a person, but I'm perceiving all kinds of information around me. Mommy, daddy, shoe, toy, whatever have you. And all of this information is coming into a kid like me, and it's all perception. Now, unbeknownst to me, and I don't really realize that this is happening, but I've moved from first dimension of my human existence into second dimension of my human existence, and I like to call that my formative years. That's where I start to understand that I somehow have a little personality that I'm developing on my own, and it just sort of is happening. Now, no one told me anything. It's not like a light switch went on and I realized, hey, I'm in the second dimension. I did not know that that happened when it happened. It was in that second dimension of existence that I started to create what I call, the book calls it, a double life.
He can dance.
Doctor says that we are an effect produced by alcohol. And it's in that effect later on in my formative years that I found relief. It's the only relief I've ever found. And the thing of it is that I always knew that there was something not right about me. It was always the way that other kids and other people looked. And there was always that feeling of I don't fit in. And there was always a lacking. I didn't feel the way everybody looked. And that happened in my formative years. And what ultimately wound up happening was that because there was something in me that didn't quite measure up to the way everyone else looked, I did not know how to negotiate that. Started to really hate myself. And I really didn't like who I was. There was always them, and then there was me. I was born in the absolute biggest city in the world back in 1963. And it was growing up there where I started my formative years. But my parents quickly moved out of there, and we went to the other side of the continent. And I mostly grew up on a ranch in Yakima, Washington, where we had horses and cattle, and me and my brother worked at a dairy ranch, and we'd milk cows twice a day, cut hay, shoe horses, rodeo whenever we could find time to do that. And the formative years were really grounded in that. So I have the perception years of growing up in the biggest city in the world and seeing the things that occurred in that period of time. But my formative years really came in a ranch life in Washington State. And it was at that time that, things sort of changed for me. I started to realize, only from being an Alcoholics Anonymous, looking back on that. And this is part of experience that I think all of us really just become unaware of. It's at the point in time when you leave out your experience, it's at the point in time when we really can't help anybody else. Leaving that out is like a track runner that's got a baton, and there's 4, 5, 6 track runners around the field. And you got the baton and you take off like a bat out of hell and you give it to the other guy, and the other guy takes it and he's running his off. In the middle of the race, he says, "No, I don't think so," and he takes the baton. And what winds up happening? The whole goddamn team loses. Everybody loses. And it's that way in here. When you leave out your experience, everybody loses. Because the only strength that there is in my experience, and then there might be hope for someone out of that. I've got to understand that what binds us together is our weakness. It's our weakness that we share with each other that binds us together. It's not our broken loves. So I got much to do with that. On this ranch, I realized that there was something inherently wrong with me. And what I sought to do was I became a performance person. And so I performed for people. I put on stage characters, the book calls it. And these are the stage characters that I wanted everybody to see. Now, I was terrified that anyone would ever see through me. Because if you knew what was missing in me, what made me separate from you, if you figured that out, if you found that out, then it would be the end of you. And I also came to realize that if you saw the projections that I was putting on for you, that it would be a twofold thing for me, and then I just wouldn't exist. There would be no way. Because you would find out that great big hole inside of me that is separate from you and lacking in every way. I considered myself a failure. I considered myself a loser. I considered myself to be everything that you were not. And I could not have that happen. You found that out. Looked inside of me and saw what was missing. I was done for. Double-edged sword for me is that if you found out the stage characters that I was putting up for you, you would know that too. And then I would be done. So throughout this time, something amazing happened. We ran into this little thing called alcohol. And it didn't take away that failure, and it didn't take away that hole, and it didn't take away that there's them and then there's me. It didn't take any of that away. I remember sitting at my parents' house. We had, up there on the ranch one night, we're having dinner, and I think I was about 10 or 11 years old, maybe. And we didn't have much, but we had enough, And I thought to myself that even as a child that this family would probably be a lot better off if I wasn't here. And maybe they would have more if I wasn't around. And I felt like I was eating their food. And no one ever knew that. And I wouldn't say that to anybody. But that was the feeling that I had. And so when I set out to put all these stage characters up for everybody, the last thing I wanted to do was have anybody find that out. That there's something lacking in me that makes me not like you. A ton of experience. So what happened was alcohol came along. And I think I was 12 years old. And it suspended that. It didn't take it away. It just suspended. And it's the very first time that I felt any kind of relief from that. It became clear to me that was really the thing that I wanted to continue to do from that point on. I wanted to continue to feel that way from that day on. So I began stealing the alcohol that was under my dad's bedstand. And there was enough of it there. Boy, I had Bacardi 151, there was Chivas Regal, there was all kinds of shit in there, boy, vodka, everything. And they had some friends over a few years later and offered them a drink. And the old boy sat there at the table and said, "This tastes like fucking water." I sat over there going, "That's all." I had drank all of this liquor. And their friends left and we went and got a real drink. No one ever said anything about it. I was 15 years old, out on my own, and I found this thing called drugs, and I did drugs alcoholic.
Come on.
And I started mixing the two, and then Bill mentions his story. He said the doctor came and gave me a heavy sedative. We call that dope.
Yep.
That's what we call it today. So the next day, found him drinking both gin and a sedative. And he said that combination soon landed him on the rocks. At 15 years old, I had a needle in my arm. I wasn't country boy anymore. I just sort of ran streets and took off both ends dope deals. Those of you know that did that. I'm talking about. And I just ran rampant. I'm going to skip all of the mudslinging and things that I did in between, because it's much more important that I tell you about what happened in the program of recovery that I found. If you've never seen one before, I am a recovered alcoholic. It's nice to meet you.
Hey.
And if you're confused about that issue, get the response. I've recovered from a hopeless condition of mind, and that's where my gratitude comes from. We're not cured of alcoholism, but those things I have recovered from. So I'm approaching about 24 years old, and I've got 3 sets of scars going up both arms and halfway up my neck from my outside issues, along with Jack Daniels and bathrooms and things like that. And something happened to me that I didn't anticipate happening. I did a little too much one day. Have you ever drank yourself sober? Have you ever drank so much that you just sober? Wasted all that goddamn money drinking shit. I don't feel anything right now. It's like, and it really pisses a guy like me off because, I think, shit, I spent a lot of money on that fifth, and that beer, and that dope. And it made me mad when those things happened. This particular time was the end for me, though. I had drank and used myself sober. Bathroom. And 2 entities showed up on this side of me. I knew what they were. One entity showed up on this side of me. And the warning was that I not look at their feet. And I knew better. I didn't go there. I knew better. I stood there terrified. The kind of terror that a human being should not be feeling. And these 2 were conversing with this one that had a breastplate about my soul.
It is good.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
It wasn't about how much I drank at that point in time. It wasn't about what I did. It wasn't about any of that. They were discussing my soul and where it was going to go. Now, these 2 told one that they had a right to be there. They were invited. And they had a right to be there. And they had a right to a soul. And the one said, maybe so, to my words, we were communicating, and I knew what was going on, but I didn't understand the language. But I knew what was going on. And the one to my left said, not that one. Not him. Yeah, your own soul. But you can't have his. And they were authorized and allowed to take a soul of my bloodline. And did. And fucking did. That was it for me. That was it for me. We talk about consequences and things that we do when we're drinking, and sometimes it's even funny. But at that time, for me, it all the games, the fun was over with. And it wasn't funny anymore. And that was it for me. I reached out, and I reached out for help. And that was December of 1986. I went into a 7-day detox center. The man sat with me for 7 days. His shift was 10-hour shifts, and he sat with me for 7 days. Feeding me juice and telling me that the spiders were not on the wall and the snakes were not on the ground, and he wasn't going to let them get me. And the voices that I was hearing, he just assured me that I would be okay, and he sat with me. I remember he had a scar across his neck like somebody that cut him from one end to the other. But I got out of that detox center, and, you know, man, New Year's rolled around. And I don't know what got into me, but I had to go one more time. I wound up going back into that place in January 12th, and I started my journey in Alcoholism. Just went to 4-5 meetings a day for a couple of years straight. People in AA always welcomed me. I had got sponsors. First 4 years and 8 months of my recovery, I tell people this, and sometimes it's hard because it sounds like I'm bashing Alcoholics Anonymous when I'm really not. I cannot effectively tell you what happened without telling you what it was like. So I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to all these meetings, and I'm listening to people telling me, just keep coming back, just keep coming back, just keep coming back. And that lasted for a few years. Told me, you watch, you'll get better over time. And then somebody say something stupid to me like, just don't drink today. Is that easy, huh? Yeah. Just don't drink today? Just go to a meeting and don't drink today. Okay? And now, we have just finished up on the Reagan campaign where they just said no. And I thought, wow, that's far. Just say no. And all that stuff was going on, and I wasn't having a good time. And what wound up happening was, I found that when I would go to sponsors that sponsored me, and I would tell them, I don't feel like this is working for me. It says in a book that, I'm going to be able to look the world in the eye. And I'm going to be able to be at perfect peace and peace. And the feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come stronger. And I would tell them, none of that's happening for me. I am fucking crazy. Last week I pulled my vest off and punched a fucking plate glass window trying to get the guy on the other side at my job. All the while saying, God save me from being angry. He's locking the fucking door on the inside going, oh shit. So I'm trying to punch the door, trying to get to this man. I told him, something's wrong here. I'm not trying to spray anything very well. And they were telling me, I've had 4 or 5 sponsors in that period of time. They told me, they said, well, Patrick, maybe you just need to go back out, or, maybe you're not ready. And I hit a point of desperation at 4 years and 8 months in, and I'd gone to all the meetings that I could go to, and I heard all the bullshit I wanted to hear. And for some reason, I kept thinking to myself, man, but it's in the book. It's in the book, though. Every once in a while, I would see somebody that was sober and happy at the same time. And they were genuine about it. They weren't pretending. Because, I mean, all of you that sponsor people, you know how you fucking fight. Come on. You try to be the nice guy all the time to them when you're really not. Try to, wait for the stoplight when they're riding with you going, no, we're not getting married. When at any other given time you'd be flipping someone off going, get out of my fucking way. So I knew that these people were genuine about it. They were happy and they were sober at the same time. And I wouldn't see them all the time, but I would see them once in a while. And what I was doing was I was going to a lot of meetings, and I didn't come here tonight to prepare anything for you that I heard off of any damn speaker tape. I didn't come here to tell you anything about me that isn't true, and if that bothers you, well, you're coming back. But what I've come to find out is that I've been to all the meetings I could go to, and I've heard everything I needed to hear. I could tell you what a guy would say before he even opened his mouth, because I've went to so many meetings that I knew what his pitch was. And none of that started adding up for me. And I thought to myself, it's either all of these folks are wrong and the book is right, or all these folks are right and the book is wrong. Because there's very few people that I saw that were sober and happy at the same time on a regular basis. So I started just parroting one-liners. I don't know if any of you guys have ever done that. It's like you say something, you hear something in a meeting, you go to another meeting, you try to repeat that for someone else on the way out the door. It's like, keep coming back. You're a sponsor. And the meetings, when I would do stuff like that, made me feel okay for just a brief period of time. And I think that's what happened in Alcoholism Anonymous. It allowed me to feel okay until I got to another meeting. And the time where I felt like okay was getting shorter and shorter and shorter in Alcoholism Anonymous. And I got to a point where I thought to myself, if this is what it is, if this is what my life is going to be like, if I can't find anything in here, then it's really no different than what I could not find out there. And on that basis, I'm not going to live 30, 40 years doing it. There's either an answer for a guy like me or there isn't. And at that point, everyone else just sort of took an outside deal with me. It's like all y'all were in the bleachers when it came to that. And I realized that I needed an answer and I needed to get one. The third dimension of existence is what I call consequential years. That's out of the formative years into the consequences of everything I've ever done in my actions and this and that and other. And I started to understand that these consequential years, people actually die in that. And they never really know anything about a fourth dimension of existence. They just sort of die there. They have the consequences of decisions that they made based on their perception and their formative years, and the rest of their time in life, they just have consequences, and a lot of people will die that way. And there's really very few people that, like these people in the book, that mentioned something about a fourth dimension of existence. So that became important to me. And I thought to myself, I need to find this thing, whatever it is, and I couldn't. So it's a period of desperation that I don't like to talk about that much, but I will talk about it, because maybe you are an alcoholic and you're going in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out. And you have to go to the airport, you'll see, and when you pull up to the airport, you'll see that you'll get out of your vehicle, and you'll go, and there'll be a door there. And of course, there's an outside, and then there's an inside, and they go around. And it reminded me of 4 years in AA. Because I had seen people, now I hadn't done this because of what I had already been through. But they're outside, and they come in, and they go out, and they come in, and they go out. Never get off of that round door. You just sort of ride it, you know. And they come in and they go out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And it dawned on me that it's possible that the guys that were sponsoring me at that time had no more idea what the big book was about than I did. Imagine that. And so I put 38 in my mouth and thought, I'm just going to go ahead and check out of this book. I have enough. I don't do this anymore. And I don't think I can stand here and effectively tell you the feelings and how that felt, because I don't have the words for it. My world had finally crashed. I was a fuck up out there, and I wasn't going to be anything more than a fuck up in here. And I knew that there wasn't an answer for me. I've been through these people, and I've been through that. He told me to read a line or a page and then call you later, and I was like, fuck you, man. You know? Because that ultimately it did nothing for me. And so I couldn't pull the trigger, and about 3 days after that, I ran across a man named Chuck, who was sponsored by a man named Chuck Chamberlain, and I asked him to help me. And I asked him to sponsor me. He said no. So I proceeded to call him a self-righteous son of a bitch, and what I thought of him, and he told me, you're just a tough guy. So that shit ain't gonna work with me. And I thought to myself, and it's like, do you realize who you're talking to here now? They'll knock you the fuck out. You know? What the hell's up with you? And he just kind of went, he said, look, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna stop going to these 4 or 5 meeting a day bullshit right off the bat. You're gonna come over to my house, we're gonna go through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So we're gonna do this twice a week. And by the time we're done, you won't need a sponsor, you'll be one. And I thought, and the paranoia set in with me. Because I had heard for years, meeting makers make it, building meetings, people that go back out or people stop running meetings, and I was paranoid about that. And I thought, he's telling me not to go to meetings. Some kind of cult here. Something going on. What's this guy into? You know? I went over to his house, we opened the book, I proceeded to tell him what I knew about my knowledge of AA. He went like this, we're done. It's like, what happened? What do you mean we're done? He said, do you think I had you come over here for you to tell me what you know about Alcoholics Anonymous? No. Come back next Thursday, and we'll see how this goes down. And I left there. And I went back next Thursday, and I went back, and I went back, and we formally went through the book Alcoholics Anonymous. And for the first time in my life, I've had an experience, and I have not been the same since. I started to understand what happens to a person like me and what abstinence looks like, and I have some experience with abstinence and Alcoholics Anonymous. What happens to me when I'm not drinking is I'm abstinent. And I get restless when I'm absent. No matter where the hell I am, I feel like I need to be somewhere else, doing something else, somewhere else. And I will do anything I have to do to get there. Even though I don't know where there is, I just know that I shouldn't be here doing what I'm doing now. And I become irritable. And everyone that I talk to becomes a moron to me. And I could be standing there talking to somebody. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what do I have to say to get away from this guy? I so don't want to hear this shit. And then I wind up feeling a little discontent with everything that I have in my life. And there is no gratitude in me. There's nothing. I'm grateful for nothing. I could get a new car. There was a new car for us. And a week later, after I get that new car, if you'd ask me, hey, how are you liking that new car? I'll go, well, it's fine. The girl of my dreams comes along, and we're happy. Nobody sees us for 2 weeks, and oh boy, here we go. The one, she finally showed up in my life. Talked to me 30 days later. It's like, hey, how's that how's that romance working out, Patrick? Like, maybe she wasn't the one. And I have a genuine malcontent for everything in my life. And that's what happens when someone like me is abstinent. And I will do that until I cannot take it anymore. And I'll go to enough meetings, even to the point where I just cannot take that restless, irritable discontent in me anymore. And the only way that I can find relief is by taking a few drugs. I've always seen other people taking it without punishment. I've always seen the bar crowds and there are people laughing in the sports bar. And they go home to their loved ones, and I have burnt my life to the ground one more time. I show up a week later. Everybody's done moved out. That's what happens to a guy like me. And I understood that this craving, this phenomenon craving, well, if I understood it, then it wouldn't be a phenomenon. Just a country boy, but goddamn. I mean, shit. If I could explain it, then it wouldn't be a phenomenon. But I started to understand that their craving presents itself to me as a powerful yearning for another one, another one, another one. I'll have another. And I'm trying to find a destination that maybe you guys have heard of. It's a place called There. And what I really want to do is get there. And you all know what there is. There is where I'm finally okay. There is always located in the next ring for me, though. And I know I'm going to get there. I'm finally there. I'm there. But there is always in the next ring. Strength and the next strength and the next strength. And that's how that craving presents itself to me in my life. I can remember my last drunk. I can remember my last time. But I cannot remember it with sufficient force. Of suffering and humiliation, that I cannot bring into my existence with enough force to stop me from doing it again. So I have this physical thing going on. I have definitely a spirit illness because I was never enough. And I have this mental incapacity to remember with any kind of force two things, suffering and humiliation at the time. It's not that I don't remember it. It's just that it doesn't have force to keep me from drinking again. And I understood that the grave nature of alcoholism is really just that right there. For me, that's the grave nature of alcoholism. And if you leave me alone long enough, eventually I will kill myself. I will drink until I die. If something doesn't happen. Step 3. We talked about God around here. We talked about that. We talked about whatever your belief in God is. We're not here to define God for you. That's not what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. We are not a religious organization. For a long time I thought that we were, but we're really not. I'm not into the whole Big Bang thing. There was some explosion and then mankind came along. I just can't get there. I just can't. This notion of evolution. I've been watching apes for 60 fucking years. I ain't seen one turn into a man yet. Lately, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I can't get down with something like that. But deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. And when I've exhausted all these other avenues and all of these other notions and everything that's involved in that up here, all of my prejudice, all of my ill intentions towards these religions and religious people and everything in between, I'm finally going to find this fundamental idea in the last place I would look, and that's deep down inside of me. I would never think of looking there, but yet there it is. The book says we found the great reality deep down within us. And then the last analysis, it is only there that we know. And that was the case for me. I came to realize that I have this thing called a conscience that has been telling me right from wrong my whole life. although I didn't create it, and I could not take it out and show it to you. If I could, I would take it out and show it to you, but I did not create that. And I started to understand that that is God's form of communication with me. A friend of mine told me outside before we started the meeting today, he said, well, I suppose if I ever found God, I'd stop looking for him. And I thought, Jesus Christ, why didn't I think of that? That's so cool. I suppose he's right. Maybe that's why it says if you were sought. Maybe I'm not supposed to really, really, truly find him, but it's in the seeking. And if I had something for you to take away, and said, okay, if you do this, then you'll have your life back and you'll have everything you want, regarding alcoholism, I wouldn't give it to you. I wouldn't, because it would rob you of the journey. And it's in the journey is where all of the goodness and fullness and everything is. It's in that journey with each other. I don't give a rat's ass if you like me. I really don't care. And I don't care if you don't like this person and that person and the other. I really don't care. I really don't care. It's our weakness that keeps us and binds us together. It's the powerful cement that binds us together. And there's three of those. It's unity and prayer and service. It's not just in showing up and drinking coffee with each other. It's in service to each other. It's the unity. And it's the recovery. If any of those are missing, then we're not really bound the way that AA talks about the book as being bound. I started third step prayer on my knees with my sponsor, and we moved into 4, and the effort to get rid of the things in me that was blocking me. I have an illness, folks, and my illness, it has audio. I don't know if any of you have that same illness. Mm. But my illness has audio, and it has a volume button, and it often turns itself up. It's always there to greet me. I don't believe I've ever thought about life any other way, but like a picture frame has a frame on the outside of it. Everything that I've thought and how I feel, you can tell me whatever you want to, but I will think about it myself. And I'll let you know how I feel about it before I'll do it. And my illness has veto power. My illness can veto anything that doesn't pass my way of thinking and how I feel about it. That's kind of strange. The book says that selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of my trouble. If I didn't just describe what the root is and what selfishness is, I don't know what the fuck is. Because I operate in the parameters of my own thinking and what I feel about what you're proposing to me. Now, if it makes sense to me and I feel the right way about it, then I might do it. You know what just happened there? I've never known anybody to live any other way. But what just happened there is that I am my own alpha. And I am my own omega. I'm alpha, I'm omega, I'm the beginning, and I'm the end. And I'll not have any other way go. If it doesn't pass my thinking and how I feel about it, then it's not going to happen. If that is not selfishness and self-centeredness, I don't believe it is. And I lived my whole life that way, but it was never pointed out to me. I never understood any of that. I was clueless and never really thinking that there was any other way to live. And according to me, all of you were doing the same thing. I said, Patrick, if here's the thing about that way of thinking. And here's the thing about that, Mr. Alpha and Omega. If you're so right about everything, and you're sitting in Alcoholics Anonymous trying to solve your problems with your mind, well, it makes sense to you, whether it feels right or not. If you're trying to do that, I have a question. If you're so right, and your way of thinking is so right, and how you feel about things is so right, then why is your life the way it is? And I didn't have an explanation for that. It became clear to me that the very mind I was trying to use to solve my own problems in Alcoholics Anonymous, it was the very same mind that got me there. And when that was proposed to me that way, I became highly offended. I told Chuck, I'll just whoop your ass right now. He told me, well, it ain't going to change anything. Even if you could. But it ain't going to change anything for you. So, we need to have a look at that. Here on after in this drama of life, you're going to get out of the director chair. And you're going to start to entertain some of the way of solving the problems other than you must. And I think people, like, they say something about this pity committee, whatever it is. I don't know what the fuck it is. But I identify that as being me, myself, and I. And they're always willing to sit at the conference table up here in my head and tell me what they think. Well, if you ask me, I feel this way about it. Well, here's what I think. You know, I look at it this way. And it's always going on in here. It's always going on. It's like insanity at its best. It keeps me from following directions. That's what it does. Because I'm my own alpha and I'm my own omega. I am the beginning of the end. When that sort of thinking is established in me, it's hard to help someone like me. So the fourth step is designed for me to break down that command control center up here in my head and start looking at the flaws in that whole makeup of that whole ordeal. And it started to make sense to me that it was in that ill intentions of everyone had a purpose to me. And if I could not get anything out of you, I had no use for you and I didn't want to talk to you. Everything had an underlying motive. And it was those motives that were hidden deep inside of me that I hid away from everyone that I had to talk about in step 5. When those came to the surface, I experienced something. I felt that the drink problem had disappeared. The obsession to drink and get the effect that I could get out of alcohol was removed. And I have gotten what the first 100 people laid out in this program of action that's laid out and outlined in our book. It's not a program of deliberation. It's not a program of thought. It's not a program of feelings. It's a program of action that works on a chronic alcoholic like me. And if those actions are taken the way it's outlined in the book, something great could happen to a guy like me, and it did. The obsession to drink was gone, and it hasn't returned. I spend most of my time, bright spots in my life are the time that I spend sitting at the table with alcoholics that of the in and out variety. And those are the guys that I seem to love the most because they have such a hard time in here grabbing onto this thing. They kind of feel like they're never going to get it. And some of them feel like they're just going to die drunk or something like that. And it's those guys that really have a special place in my heart. Now, I'm going to piss off some of your older folks in here. I sponsor men, and I sponsor women. If you have a problem like I had, and you have a pulse, I'll sit down at the table with you and me and my wife, and we will formally go through that book and help you to a solution. Way to solve our problems and live in a manner so designed for living for us. It's to grasp and develop a manner of living that demands rigorous honesty. It is the only demand in the book. Well, to grasp it is one thing, and then I'm going to spend the rest of my life developing it. If you're new in Alcoholics Anonymous, if you do not have a sponsor that will sit down at a table with you and go through that book with you and explain it to you, then you ought to find another sponsor. And bring him with you. Yeah. He may need the program more than you do. I was 7 years sober. I had a guy come out to me on a patio one time. He had 16 years or something like that. He goes, hey, Patrick, come here, man. I'll talk to you for a minute. All right. What are we doing here? He says, there's other people here. He said, look, I'm sort of interested in what you found, but I'd like to come and sit down, but nobody needs to know about this. Okay. I'm not here with a bullhorn. And I come to find out that he was close to blowing his head off. He was close at 16 years in to where I was at 4 years in the concept. And this man was 16 years in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he hated his fucking life. And he was doing the same thing that I was doing. Go to a meeting, say something, feel better, and then go on about, and then have all of that happen all over again. Go to a meeting, say something to feel better, and then have that happen all over again. It's a vicious cycle. I don't know if you've ever been to funerals in Alcoholics Anonymous, but the statistics is that in 1955, we had a 75% success rate. We did a show of hands in here earlier. You think that between 30 and 40 years, there ought to be more than 2 people in the ring? Think about that. Where did they go? If you water this down for a guy like me, you might as well be watering my drinks down. And watering my drinks down does not work for someone like me. So if I get a watered down program of action, it is not going to work for a guy like me. I sort of feel like there should have been a lot more hands between 30 and 40 than there was. Shouldn't that be the case? You are the future of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know if you realize this or not, but you are the future of Alcoholics Anonymous. You getting this program of action and then trying to implement it in your life is crucial to the guy who's doing it for the next month, who doesn't even have 8 hours of stuff. If you're a real alcoholic like me, your experience is the only thing that will help you reach that man or woman. And it's at the point that you leave that out that they can't relate to you. They don't know what you're talking about. So cherish your experience. Share it. Share your experience. If I want to hear a speaker tape, I'll go fucking buy one, man. I don't need to hear parroted shit. When I go to a meeting, I need to hear your experience. Your experience. Touch on a little bit of them, but try to give me some hope. Tell me what your life is like in this program, in sobriety. Give someone a little hope. We all have consequences, man. And it would take us a whole nother lifetime just to share with each other those consequences. We just sit around and talk about those that we're pulling face and never really get anywhere. And we won't. Because we'll leave a meeting knowing that you're no more successful at drinking than I am. But you cannot transmit something you haven't done. See to it that your relationship with you is right. Trust God, clean house, and help others. So, thank you.
Woo!